So the Atlanta Falcons are not winners this week. And let's be honest, we all predicted that. Even I said I didn't think the Atlanta Falcons had a high chance of winning this game. However, I still want to talk about it. I think there are a lot of great points to take and pretty much have from this game going forward. I know the Buccaneers are one of the best teams in the entirety of the league. Tom Brady played an amazing game. Matt Ryan got back into his groove a little bit. I'm going to get into all that information. Before I do, make sure to like and subscribe, turn that notification bell. You guys help me out a little bit. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. Now, of course, the Atlanta Falcons, over a pretty good win against the Jacksonville Jaguars last week, they pretty much got carved up really on both sides of the ball, but especially on defense by Tom Brady and a supreme passing attack that consisted mainly of Rob Gronkowski, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin, and overall the whole Bucs offense, to be honest with you. That Bucs offense made it look easy against the Atlanta Falcons. However, I'm going to get more into the Falcons defense later. I'm going to get more into their offense right now. Now, of course, Matt Ryan seemed to get back into his groove at least a little bit. He went 30 for 41 for 297 passing yards, but did not have a touchdown or an interception. So in terms of yardage-wise, he was pretty good, but when it comes to scoring and putting points on the board, it was almost like he was pretty much a non-factor. Matt Ryan didn't really play too big of a role when it came to scoring the points. I mean, one of our points scored came from a pick six on the 4-ish yard line where Tom Brady threw a pick on the screen, and it was a great read by the defensive lineman. I'm going to get into that later. That was Marlon Davidson on that pick six. However, Matt Ryan, he played a pretty decent game, but didn't really have that big of an impact, if you will. Now, of course, going to the Atlanta Falcons rushing game, it was once again very, very, very acceptable and respectable. The team on the ground had a total of 121 rushing yards with 1 rushing touchdown, and of course, one of the most versatile Swiss Army knives in the NFL, Cordero Patterson, led our team with 78 rushing yards, 13 carries, but Mike Davis ended up being the one scoring the rushing touchdown. Very, very good for the Atlanta Falcons rushing attack. Of course, this whole year, I've been so concerned with the Atlanta Falcons rushing the ball. It's been very frustrating at times to see the Atlanta Falcons just not able to run the ball. And to see them do this in front of one of the best rushing defenses in the entirety of the league shows me that this team can not only have the ball and run it, but they can also run it with dexterity, if that makes sense. They can also run it with an increased level of greatness, really. This team can really run the ball when they need to. And of course, I feel like Atlanta needs to run the ball more. Of course, I know Matt Ryan is a great quarterback, but you don't have your number one wide receiver, Calvin Ridley, who is still out. Of course, Kyle Pitts is still a rookie-ish guy. He's still trying to figure out where he fits in. And of course, Russell Gage is a good receiver, but he's not necessarily able to be your number one guy. But of course, speaking of receivers, I have to go into the receiving game. Now, speaking of Russell Gage, he had a great game, and he was pretty much the main guy yesterday. 11 receptions for 130 yards. However, Kyle Pitts also had a half-decent game. I mean, 4 receptions for 48 yards. It's been a hard last 3 to 5 weeks for Kyle Pitts, and hopefully Atlanta can find ways to keep him open. Once again, I feel like Atlanta's still trying to figure him out, and it's really, really hard for a rookie such as Kyle Pitts. I don't care how much of an amazing athlete you are, just like Kyle Pitts is, it's going to be really, really hard for you to adjust to the NFL when you're getting double-teamed in your rookie season, especially as a tight end. And Kyle Pitts is seeing how hard that is right now. Now, of course, going to the Atlanta Falcons offensive line after the receiving game had a pretty good game. The offensive line didn't do so well. It was really, really tough, and the O-line for the Atlanta Falcons took a major step in the absolute wrong direction yesterday. They allowed 5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, and a whopping 11 QB hits. Matt Ryan was running for his life the entire game. And of course, the Atlanta Falcons need to find a way to fix this issue. I have not liked the offensive line for pretty much the entirety of the season. Some games they look good, just like last game against Jacksonville, they did pretty good. And then some games against more supreme pass rushing teams, they look bad. Just like this Week 13 game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Man, this Atlanta Falcons offensive line has a lot to handle. They have a lot to talk about. And if they want to win eventually, they're going to have to get the offensive line back in its rhythm. They're going to have to get it back settled. Whether it be this year, next year, or many years to come, you're going to need to improve that offensive line if you're the Atlanta Falcons. Now going for the defense, the Atlanta Falcons defense once again had an up and down performance, and at times they looked really, really good, and I was really surprised with the Atlanta Falcons defense this game. Now, of course, the defense did force an interception that went for a touchdown. Marlon Davidson had a great read on a screen, picked off Tom Brady, went in for a touchdown. However, when looking at the total stats, you can see that Atlanta was pretty much carved up the whole game. Of course, Tom Brady, the best quarterback of all time, he had a total of well over 300 passing yards. The Bucs as an offense had a total of 425 total yards, and this included a 15 reception game from Chris Godwin. Tom Brady made the Atlanta defense look like it was playing in the multiverse. He made Atlanta's defense look like they were playing in slow motion. Now, of course, Atlanta's coverage was also not very, very good. They couldn't get pressure on the quarterback, but they also couldn't keep up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers receivers. And when you have that, you get a team scoring 30 points, which is exactly what happened. Now, of course, Tom Brady had a monster game, but Chris Godwin and Mike Evans both went for over 100 yards. Gronk caught for 2 touchdowns. Of course, this game, it was a game to forget for those Atlanta Falcons defensive backs. It was really increasingly difficult for the Atlanta Falcons defensive back to defend those wide receivers for as long as they had to, with the Atlanta Falcons defensive line getting little to no pass rush. Now, of course, speaking of the Atlanta Falcons defensive line, they were absolutely dormant. They did not record a single sack. They only had 1 quarterback hit. This is a new low for this Atlanta Falcons defensive line, and you are going to need to pressure Tom Brady if you want to beat him. That's been the rule for decades. That's the rule today. No matter how old he gets, no matter how crazy talented he is, no matter, you're going to have to pressure Tom Brady if you want to get the ball out of his hands, if you want him to be somewhat uncomfortable, and the Atlanta Falcons were not able to do that, which is why Tom Brady put up an amazing game, and the Bucs put up 400 plus total yards on offense. That was a very, very tough game. That was hard to watch as an Atlanta Falcons fan, especially watching the defense. Now, of course, going to the overall take, it was clear who the better team was. The Buccaneers are the better team as of right now. Tom Brady is a whopping 10-0 against the Atlanta Falcons during his career, which makes me really sad to read. That's tough, but I mean, he's the GOAT for a reason. He's the best player of all time for a reason, so you can't really be mad at that fact. Now, of course, the Atlanta Falcons playoff hopes, they look just about dead right now. I mean, of course, there are still a lot of things that could happen for the Atlanta Falcons to make it, but at this point, you just have to go as hard as you can for the rest of the season at this point. The Falcons have nothing else to lose. There is no reason why I think we shouldn't try a couple of things. Maybe a quarterback change or a receiver switch or putting Kyle Pitts somewhere else a little bit, switching and flipping him around. There's no reason why we shouldn't try that with our young team and head into possibly next year with a better idea of who we have on our lineup. Now, of course, next week we have the Carolina Panthers, and this should be a win, and here's why. The Carolina Panthers are in total disarray. They just fired their offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, on Sunday, which is yesterday as of the recording of this video, but actually 2 days ago by the time you guys are seeing it. Christian McCaffrey is out for the season. Cam Newton is coming off one of the worst quarterback performances literally ever against the Miami Dolphins a couple of weeks ago. Atlanta should be able to win this game and take care of business. However, the Carolina Panthers, still a very solid team. You can't take them for granted. Cam Newton is going to be coming back to his hometown. Man, I'll always say, I don't like the Panthers, but I always like my boy Cam Newton. He's an Atlanta guy just like me. He loved the Falcons growing up. Man, Cam Newton's always been that dude. I really hope that he has a good return. However, I don't want the Panthers winning this game. I think the Atlanta Falcons can definitely and should definitely take care of business. The Atlanta Falcons are now 5-7 on the year, and I'm starting to think Atlanta needs to rebuild this team. I just don't think this team is going to work. I think at best we're looking at a 9-8 team this season, which is mediocre because you're not going to get a top pick, but you're not going to make the playoffs either, which is right in the area where you don't want to be if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan or even any team in the NFL. You don't want to be in that middle ground. You don't want to be in the zone where you're good enough to have a lower pick, but not quite good enough to make the playoffs. And I feel like that is exactly where Atlanta is right now. Hopefully we can get things back in order, and hopefully Arthur Smith can make a late push for the season, and hopefully the Atlanta Falcons can maybe make a playoff run. Who knows? However, anything can happen. I think the Falcons need to go and rebuild. That's just what I think as of right now. You guys let me know what you think the Falcons should do in the comments. But of course, that's going to be the end of the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Turn that notification bell. You guys help me out a little bit. Of course, links in the description. TikTok, Spotify's, Instagram. You guys follow those up for me. I would really appreciate it. But of course, whether you follow those links or not, whether you even click or look at the links or not, I wish that you stay loved and stay blessed. And without further ado, I'm going to end this video. Thank you for watching.
Like a lot of funky man that lack finesse. Wanna be rappers brag about already being the best. I respect many people for the job they've done. It is full of jealousy is what I like especially. I like a lot of funky man that lack finesse.